Come with us now, if you dare, down a rickety staircase into a dank, dark basement. What awaits? The Saturday Night Freak Show.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Saturday Night Freak Show podcast, the movie review and talk show podcast that comes your way every Saturday, whether you're ready for it or not, because we're on a quest to take over the world. These are the internet radio superstars.
Sean.
Michaela.
And I'm Colin. And tonight we watched the movie that was chosen by...
Colin, what do we watch tonight?
Tonight we were inspired by the Christmas spirit.
We were inspired by the depressing Wisconsin winter spirit,
yes.
I think.
Seasonal depression in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. This is like that in movie form.
Yes.
We're lucky that it hasn't actually started snowing here yet, but yeah, a nice wintry movie.
Yeah.
To kick off the holiday season,
Sure.
We watched a movie called Deranged.
Deranged from the year
1974.
that
Good year.
seems familiar.
Another movie about the same subject came out the same year.
It was much more popular.
Yeah.
Popular, but is this I'm not going to say better, but the crazier version of that? I don't know.
Really?
This is the more accurate retelling.
That I believe.
For
yes.
sure, but yeah.
Okay. So directed by.
It's a co-directed effort by
Always a good sign.
Alan
Always a good sign.
Ormsby and Jeff Gillen, I believe.
Do we know either of them?
Alan Ormsby you do because he worked with Bob Clark.
Okay. Which from another movie that also came out this year.
Yeah.
So
Black Christmas.
Black Christmas.
And another Christmas movie called A Christmas Story. This man is a Christmas icon.
Yeah.
So this is the
So
thing.
50
I guess
years is what we're celebrating here tonight.
we've done the Bob Clark. Last time we talked about Bob Clark
Yeah.
was I think an Alan Ormsby movie, which was called Popcorn.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
we
I
did
liked
Popcorn.
popcorn.
All right.
Remember?
What's her name?
I can't remember if Bob Clark had stepped into like shadow direct part of that movie.
Okay.
Like him and Ormsby had a falling out, or like they had a partnership. I think that lasted, started. So Bob Clark, right? When you think of Bob Clark, is it Black Christmas, A Christmas Story?
It's both of those.
It's
now.
both. And
or
it's like
Porky's.
No, not
No, I
Porky's.
always forget Porky's.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Porky's.
Okay, because I guess when I was younger, it was like Bob Clark was the Porky's guy.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then he like went off brand and made Christmas Story was like it was after Porky's, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then he became like the family friendly guy who did like Look Who's Talking, right? And stuff like that. And
Have you seen that movie? It's not family friendly. That's crazy.
I hate that franchise of movies. I can't believe there's 3 of them.
There
My
are 3 of
dad
them.
loves them.
I-
And it's one of those things that my dad always has on in the background. I can't fucking
I
stand
like the
those
first
movies.
one. I haven't seen it in probably 15 years,
God.
but I remember
Bob Clark-
liking the first one.
I don't think he did all 3. Did he do all 3 of
I
them?
don't think
Let's
so.
find out.
I was like, Bob Clark is one of those, he pops up in surprising places directors, Like, you're always like, oh, that guy did it? That's Bob Clark for you.
Yeah.
Baby Geniuses. Oh,
Oh, did he?
God, yeah. Okay, let's see what else he's got here.
Bob Clark.
Maybe it was that. He did Look
Yeah.
Who's Talking, right? Am I right on that?
I'm checking.
Or maybe he was Baby Geniuses.
Captain Google's in on it.
Maybe he wasn't
No,
Look Who's
he was
Talking.
not Look Who's Talking.
Oh, no.
Okay, it's Baby Geniuses then. So, but Porky's was the movie that, and his Christmas Story and stuff like that. So it's like, Bob Clark.
He directed Freak Show favorite Rhinestone. We can't forget.
Did he?
Sylvester Stallone, Dolly Parton.
Bob Clark directed
Two-hander.
Rhinestone?
Yes.
And that was
very
after like the Porky's phenomenon. But it seemed like with the rise of the DVD era that we began to realize that Bob Clark had actually made his name in horror movies
Right.
prior and had directed this one. Black Christmas wasn't a big deal, I don't think, until like the DVD era when people started being able to reappreciate these movies. And it's like, well, before Halloween,
Right.
there
Because Halloween got
was
very popular,
Black Christmas.
And every contrarian was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Well, actually.
Black
yes.
Christmas.
Yes.
And
Yeah, a lot of
then
actually
Yes.
coming out then.
you realize that Bob Clark actually did several horror movies,
Yep.
starting with Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things,
Yep.
which I think it was him and Ormsby co-directed.
Okay.
And then there was, I
Dead of
saw
Night?
it. I saw it under the title Dead of Night, but I guess it was originally titled Death Dream, and that's what it's been retitled. And that's actually a pretty good movie. This like Vietnam vet comes back as a zombie
No.
in the 70s.
Cool.
Like it was like 72 or something like that. So And then Deranged, he produced. Ormsby co-directed,
Okay.
and then that was the same year that Bob Clark was doing Black Christmas.
Okay. So a lot of not only getting a start in horror, but disturbing horror.
Yeah.
This is this just like a temperature of the time? Like the way the early 70s horror movies are so like grimy and just appalling in a way
was
that
it just
later movies
filmmaking back
aren't.
then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
was this just like what was in the air? You know, like I'm sure there's a lot of socio-political things that lean into
And
this.
why
but-
did everyone grab onto the Ed Gein story at this time, like majorly? Because between this, Texas Chainsaw, I mean,
Well,
Psycho, they hit
Psycho.
earlier on, but
he created modern day horror movies just by existing, right? Like Ed
Yeah.
Gein inspired like all of our modern horror movies.
I think so because it
One
was
way or
just
another.
horrifying. You know, I mean, the discovery that this guy in
Yeah.
Plainfield, Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
was digging up corpses and making lampshades out of their
Yep.
skins,
and
and
soup bowls out of their skulls.
Oh yeah,
and-
hold on,
Yeah.
hold
Yeah,
on.
it
we got to
captures-
read this list.
It captures the imagination.
Yeah. Okay. So there is like a bulleted list on his Wikipedia of the stuff they found when they raided his house.
no.
So a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chairs, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls with the top sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso skin from shoulders to waist, leggings made from human skin, masks made from skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face as a mask in a paper bag, and Mary Hogan's skull was in a box. Bernice Warden, who is the bartender in real life, her entire head was just in a bag. I'm trying to get to the weirder stuff because there was
the
more
weirder stuff.
Yeah, the weirder stuff. A belt made of human nipples. That's the one that always sticks out to me. The nipple.
Oh
belt.
yeah, the nipple belt.
Yes.
Yeah.
A pair of lips as like the drawstring on a window shade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and a lampshade made from like a face skin, like human faces. So there's a lot more, but that's the
Whoa.
highlights.
It's like a diseased, mind living in isolation,
Yeah.
off in the wilds of, and just kind of living in this
In
house.
Wisconsin, which
Yeah.
makes it 10 times worse.
He had a really overbearing and controlling mother that did not allow him or his brother to really socialize with anyone, and she was extremely religious to a like abusive degree. So that's why he kind of didn't know how to function after she died because
bet.
he never stopped living with her.
How'd the
Always
brother?
lived with her.
How'd the brother come out in
He,
all of this?
died in like
Lucky
I
him.
don't remember how he died, but he died and they buried him on the farm property.
But-
Until they unburied him
Yeah.
on the farm
Yes.
property.
And we're saying this is like the 50s.
He was
right? When this
apprehended
was-
in 57 and most active like mid 53 to 55.
But I wonder then, like, was he of age for like World War II? Did the brother go to? I mean, I
I
don't.
don't think so.
I
I
guess-
think they're just woods freaks. Like
Yeah, they don't pull from that
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
army.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna leave Wisconsin woodfolk alone.
Well, I mean, it could
there
be.
is something to the fact though that of the big serial killers, right? Like Bundy, Gacy, I mean Ed Gein, we'll get into the technicality of it all. Like so many of them are from the Midwest and from like
Yeah.
Chicago, Southern Dahmer, Chicago.
Not a lot
like,
to do around
yeah,
here.
you know, like
You need a hobby.
yeah, yeah.
But I imagine throughout
gets
like,
real
the
depressing
Corn
certain
Belt,
times of the
it's,
year.
Yeah.
got to be. It's vast expanses of land. I mean, how come more killers don't come from Montana?
Serious,
you
there's
know,
not
Right, where you could just get away with shit.
because cows outnumber people there. So like
yeah.
there's not enough victims to
Yeah,
if
you gotta-
someone goes missing, everyone's going to notice 'cause-
Yeah. Well, we're talking about Ed Gein because Deranged is a dramatization of the Ed Gein story,
Yep.
but the names have all been changed. I kind of like
Slightly.
the fact that
to
Right.
protect
Yeah.
the deranged.
it's Ezra Cobb is the name, but they keep calling him Ez,
Ez,
which
yeah.
when
Ed.
you hear it sounds like they're saying Ed.
Yep.
So there you go.
Played by
Robert's Blossom.
Robert's Blossom. And if you've ever watched Home Alone before watching this movie,
all your fears are justified.
but he's a sweet old man in that. Like you bring some of that and this is just to the actor, but you
Yeah.
bring some of that sweetness and some of that to this, and you're just like, it messes you up. Seeing that first and then coming to this, you're just like, but he's a nice old man who helped,
he
take
didn't
down the wet
terrify you in
bandits.
that movie as a kid.
No, because I always remember them sitting in church talking.
Oh, see that to me, I'm like, no, trust your instincts, kid. That guy's bad.
Yeah, but doesn't that come later after he like sees him with the shovel and all
Yeah,
that stuff?
that's
out
that's in the
like,
third act of the
He's
movie.
the
Yeah.
sinister neighbor, and then
Yes.
like, oh,
I didn't find him too ominous, I guess.
What
in
did
that
they
movie.
call him? Like the Muncie shovel slasher or something. Like they came up, he had like a whole nickname for because he
Ooh,
used to
I
bury his
forgot.
victims in piles of salt.
Yeah, they do tell that story, don't they? Yeah.
It's like that did not terrify you because like to me his face matched the story. I was like, I buy it. He looks scary.
No, I guess not. I never put it to like together because when Buzz is telling that story, they don't like flash to him as the actor like acting any of that out or anything. So I disassociated it from him. So it never bothered me until I saw this.
Well, he's got a distinctive face.
Very gaunt.
And the voice as well. Yeah.
And I mean, I always remembered him. To me, it was Christine, right? He's the guy who sells Arnie Christine. It was years later. I remember he's like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but he's one of the people off, when and Dreyfus goes off looking for the close encounter, like on the side of the mountain. I think he's there and he's, saying something about, and I'm like, oh, it's Robert's Blossom. And then you're like, every once in a while you'd catch him in a movie or something. But like this one I hadn't seen prior to all the other ones. And I'm like, this is like, I mean, it's a starring role. This is like his big, movie.
Yeah.
But I guess this movie was lost for a period of time. What I read was that basically it came out in the 70s and then played the drive-in and grindhouse circuits and then disappeared and was found, I think, with Ormsby stuff like in Florida. And so this release, we watched it on a DVD double feature with Motel Hell from MGM's Midnight Movies. I think this was when they found and resurrected the movie and put it out on DVD. And it's since, I think, been put out by like Arrow Video or somebody. They found a scene of him scooping out like the brains out of a skull or a corpse. I think he cuts the head off. That was excised, but they found it in the UK.
Okay.
And ended up putting it. So I think depending on which version you've seen, that scene may be reinstated, but
he's good casting. He looks a lot like Ed Gein.
He looks like just a dude who would be wearing a flannel and a cap and just be out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Well, of the cinematic Ed Geins we've had, we had Kane Hodder,
the multiverse of Ed Gein,
which makes Kane Hodder is
good.
the opposite of what Ed Gein. Yeah. The thing that made Ed Gein so shocking is that he was like a frail, small, old man. So that the idea that he could commit all these horrible crimes when he was just known as like the town Boo Radley, that was kind of a weird recluse that would come down to the bar and be weird. Yeah. Like they couldn't believe he did it because he was just like a frail old man. So you had to cast Jason, Kane Hodder as him.
As a hulking man, as that, just like, no.
And then they just recently announced we're getting an adaptation of some Ed Gein story with Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
That is even worse.
Unless he goes through a transformation where they make him gaunt.
Yeah.
And just
I think I've seen the pictures of it. I mean, he's basically in the cap and the flannel.
Yeah.
And, but is that a Ryan Murphy thing? I think they're doing?
I think so. So it's going to be exploitive and terrible and, over the top.
Oh, there it is.
But, can we try to stop make Charlie Hunnam happen? He had Sons of Anarchy. He had a good run. If he can't do anything else, that's fine. That's fine. Why do we keep trying to make him a star?
Maybe this will be the one that does it. He'll be forever the definitive Ed Gein.
All right. Mark it down now. Colin said it. No, because what's his name, I think, is taking all his bad guy roles. Who played the bad guy in Logan? Yep.
Boyd Holbrook.
Yeah, Boyd Holbrook. Yeah. He's taking all his bad guy roles, I think.
That's right. I think you're right.
I'd rather see him in it than...
Because this man's been trying to be famous for like 25 years. Like, there was that TV show Undeclared that he was on for many seasons.
Undeclared?
Yes. He's been trying for like 25 years to be a star. And what was that? Didn't he get a...
He wasn't in the Lost City
an Arthur movie? What was that? What was that fantasy movie? King Arthur. Yeah, he was King Arthur.
He turned down 50 Shades.
He did. He did.
Yes.
Did he do the Lost City of Z movie that Holly is the
I think so.
Prison Peak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Okay, but he's not in tonight's movie.
No.
But Ed Gein, I mean, there's going to be Ed Gein is, I think, always going to have like a fascination as this, like one of the quintessential like American serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is he a serial killer, Michaela?
There we go.
He's only confirmed to have killed 2 people.
Oh, only
a lot.
confirmed.
Because a lot of the times he would just go dig up graves and take what was there. He said over a period of like 2 years, he said he thinks he visited the graves somewhere between 40 and 50 times. Wow. So he's going there pretty regularly. And And yeah, that's why I love the scene in this movie about the obituary. We'll get to that.
Revealing.
And
it feels like he's working for Igor. Igor's like, I need a body part. And then Ed Gein goes and digs it up.
I feel like this is really like splitting hairs, but I feel like it's a little unfair to put him in the same league as like a Bundy or a Gacy because like Gacy preyed on 30 plus boys that we know of. Ed Gein was a resourceful man, you could say. Like he took what was already there. I mean, he obviously did kill a few people, but I feel like when you name him as a big bad on the same level as Bundy and Gacy and Dahmer, you think he would have a higher body count than he does. It's just kind of like when people...
he's disturbing. It's like, oh my God, you know, when you find out the stuff that he did. And I think that's probably just the people of the time were unequipped to, you know, especially in a small, you know, farm community, they'd be like, it's just beyond the pale of what you could imagine.
If this happened now, every week I would be coming here and telling you guys what I saw on Reddit about the thing they found in his house now. We would not stop talking about this if this happened now. Did you guys hear he had a nipple belt?
I think that was how it was back then.
Exactly.
But it was in the weekly dispatch of the newspaper.
It would just take a little longer to get that news out.
Or the daily. You know.
The newspapers would not have sold faster at this time back then.
And you know, everyone's going down to the local watering hole and be like, dude, did you hear about the nipple belt? You know, like...
It's just like, Ed, did you hear about Ed? Yeah, he was in here last week, and now he's in the mental institution.
And it's just like, it's things you would never think of. So to the fact that this man not only thought of it, but went through with doing it and did it for however many years and never thought there was anything weird about it, like, the normal human mind can't comprehend it.
Yeah. Visit your friends at home at least once a year. Just to see what they're up to.
Well, I guess that's why
you never know.
The movie is kind of positioning him as like there's basically there's him and his mother living in this house.
Yes.
And
how do we start the movie?
I love this.
I do too. I like this part of the movie.
This is a good device.
And it works in a few different places. Yeah, it's a good device for the movie.
They have it's Les Carlson. He was in a bunch of Bob Clark movies, David Cronenberg movies. He was in Black Christmas. He was the phone operator. Okay. Remember him running around trying to trace the call? And he was in Videodrome. I think he was like one of the guys who sold the Videodrome, you know, whatever. He gave it to James Woods. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. So he is playing a fictional reporter who uncovered this scene this story that he's about to tell you. And so he's actually there at the scene talking to the camera and the audience. You know, it's like this, all the names have been changed.
Right here on this peaceful farmhouse.
This is great, but he keeps on coming into scenes. To narrate and, you know, condense time.
But as the movie's happening, as the events are happening, and sometimes there's a couple transitions with him, which are pretty good.
Yeah.
He comes, like, you show Ezra and Mother in one scene, and then the camera sweeps away to him, and he's, like, narrating in, and then he walks into a different scene.
And Ezra's back there. And it's like stagecraft, you know, it's kind of cool. But so he narrates the whole thing. Thomas something or whatever reporter. Ez lives with his mom. His mom is on her deathbed. One of the movie's most...
What are you talking about, Colin? All she needs to do is eat some pea soup and she'll be fine.
One of the most squeamish scenes.
No,
it was bad.
Both me and Michaela put our hands up and she's like, no, don't watch it.
His pea soup.
I'll watch anybody get ripped apart. I don't want to see them eating shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially a close-up.
It's a graphic close-up of somebody's mouth as somebody's shoving a spoonful of pea soup in it.
Which soon becomes blood shooting out of her mouth.
And then the way he just keeps trying to push it back in her mouth when it comes out just makes it worse.
No, because that is what will save her at this moment in his head. It's just like, eat the pea soup.
Yes.
Well, she gives him some advice on her deathbed. 2 pieces.
Only
of
trust
advice.
fat people.
That was one of them, right? And number 2 about all other women.
Yeah, it's the devil, and
the wages of sin are paid off in what was it?
Gonorrhea, syphilis, and death.
Death. So Ezra, of course, takes this to heart. Mom passes away, and he is not himself. He's very dejected, loner. He does have friends. The neighbors next door, we see Ez like playing on a swing with a younger
He's got a childlike mentality where he gravitates towards the children and everything and helps out. He's a handyman around the house. He gave up farming. Now he's a handyman working on stuff.
And but he can't live without his mother, and so it's been a year, in the frosty Wisconsin snow.
Oh, that circle around his room when we first hear him like kind of talking in his mom's voice. Just because it shows him in bed a year after she's been married and everything, and he's distraught.
When you coming home, Mama?
Yeah, Mama. And then it's just that pan around his room, which is in the house, which is the atmosphere in the house is like one of the most disturbing elements of this because you
I
can
love
just
that.
It works.
It feels like it's one of those things where like I'm sure it's a set, but it feels like this movie could be cheap enough that they actually filmed in like an old farmhouse, and it feels like a lived-in old farmhouse. It's like wow,
lived in.
They nailed it.
Yeah, they got it. Oh, something you'd find just like, and here's an abandoned farmhouse in the middle of Wisconsin, and you're just like. That makes sense.
I don't know, actually. Sorry, I don't know about the making of it, if they just shot in an actual location, but it has that feel.
Yeah.
I mean, everything in this movie feels like they were on location shooting.
Felt very real.
But I guess that scene stood out to me because it's like, obviously, Psycho has already happened. Hitchcock did, Norman Bates talking in his mom's voice.
Yeah.
I guess we never actually see that. It's explained to us that he that was a conversation between Norman and Mother was taking place. Mother is dead. So this is going to do that same thing now 14 years later, right?
Is this a big element? Like do you think they took that from Psycho just because of the Ed Gein connection that they decided to use it again?
Ed Gein must have said something like that.
That's what I'm wondering.
To interrogators, and that got incorporated into Psycho. That
and
he was the guy who talked in his mom's
Ed
voice.
Gein story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did we mention the other movie that came out? Did we mention the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah.
Of the same year, yes.
Because I guess well, you were saying which one was crazier. It's like Texas Chainsaw is pretty crazy. If they eventually have corpses around a dinner table, you're going to have corpses around a dinner table here, and you have somebody with a flesh mask running around at some point, right?
Yeah. I think Rob Zombie definitely saw this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because the blonde wig later on was just like,
yeah. Ed Gein had like a full skin suit with like boobs on it and everything that he would wear naked running around the yard, his property.
Which we do see that in this movie eventually. Yep. So he digs mom's corpse up, brings her back to the house, and then tries to repair her. We said that the corpses in this look pretty good.
Yeah, because it's
define pretty good.
It looks
like appetizing. Like it's a very nice looking corpse,
crusty and dusty in the right way.
Yeah,
like not everything's wet.
Right. If you've ever seen if you've ever seen a corpse after a few years and just kind of the way they deteriorate and the mummification of it and everything, I always somehow my reference is always like zombie movies. I'm just like that blue makeup. Yeah. Like they don't do a dead person right.
Right.
This looks like a dead person. And why does it look like a dead person? Because somebody did the effects on this who's seen a lot of dead bodies.
And then it'd be Tom Savini. Yeah.
Putting that war trauma to good use.
Yeah. Never does a bad job.
No.
Yeah, this is I guess the corpses in this, they have, I guess they have that kind of sheen to them, that you have.
And it almost looks like they're shrinking. Like everyone's going to end up like
they're
a shrunken
brittle.
head.
Yeah.
But I think that's like the trick or danger that some of these movies run into, where it's like if you make a corpse actually look like a corpse, sometimes it looks fake, but like a corpse kind of doesn't look like an actual person anymore, But that is kind of the vibe that this movie gets. It's like, ugh. Like, it's just it's disturbing. Yeah. And he's got her propped up, and then he tries to fix the rotted parts of her. And then eventually, as the narrator explains, he starts doing that with real skin. So how does he make the leap from I'm going to try and use beeswax or something to try to like I'm going to actually use real skin to fix Mama?
Well, is this where he gets the obituary information? Yeah. So he's having breakfast with the neighbors, like you do. You taking your local freak,
Well, he's their handyman at that point.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he lives close and everything.
But he does lack a certain social awareness, though. Yeah. And it seems like everyone in this movie writes it off as like kind of like a harmless just social quirk.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that like that's the tip of the iceberg with him.
Right, yeah.
They just think he's just a little bit of a weird guy, you know?
But what do you think? Is that just the capacity for imagination isn't there? Like, you've known this guy for 25 years and he's always been a little odd, but you just can't imagine. You just can't see it.
Yeah, right. You can't fathom like anything outside of what you experience with them, that they would have something completely different going on.
Right, right. Yeah.
So I'm eyeballing y'all real close right now. We're checking these rooms, Colin, when we're done.
They're at the breakfast table and they're talking about how the father of the house, his teacher, Sunday school teacher, died, and she was in the newspaper. And Ed Gein's like, "You get in the newspaper just for dying?" Which I don't know why that was so funny. The way he phrased it, but
also,
it was
right.
There's
it's a funny movie
in this movie. Yeah.
Is it black comedy?
It feels like it at times.
I would say so.
And they explained to Ed Gein what an obituary is, and he's like, "You're telling me you can find out when someone died and where they're buried on the same day?" And they were like, "Yeah." And this is where they should start. I'm sorry, they should start questioning this a little bit. He's how old, and he's never heard of an obituary in a newspaper.
Yeah, he's a simple man.
And then when he does hear about it, he's like, "Oh, this is valuable information."
Right, I'd rather read the sports page, not me.
Yeah,
this is very valuable information.
Like at the very least, you think he's probably going to like grave rob, steal some jewelry or gold teeth or something, right? Based on like the way he's talking about this, like
go and see if there's any valuables in there.
Right.
It's like you crazy, Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they put it off to. But he then starts, I guess, because he digs up Mrs. Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And brings her home and does fix up a little bit of mom and starts talking to mom.
Skins her, takes her face off. We see him wear her little face as a mask. Yeah. Because she's fresher, so it's like better quality to work with.
Sure, yeah. It's still got that elasticity in it.
Yeah.
She used a lot of oil of Olay.
Well, we're so like, I guess going to the black comedy aspect of it, right? It's like, I remember that when I watched it. It has been a while. And so, I was like, yeah, we should watch Deranged. And I remember it being this kind of ghoulish movie. So I was actually kind of surprised tonight, like how much laughter we got out of at least the first half of the movie. And I'm like, this is intentional.
It does stop at a certain point. But yes, intentional, like you said. But I wonder if they discovered that based on just situationally of like, this is a really weird situation, and you get comedy from that, from the performance of Roberts Blossom, who's also just very funny in his reactions and his facial expressions. He's got, he kind of runs the gamut in this, but funny.
Just because
maybe just because we're uncomfortable watching this weird shit, we're just like, that's just a funny thing.
Well, I also like that there's a scene, I guess the rest of the movie from this point on seems to be focused on, because I think the narrator even comes in and says something like, he hadn't, hadn't turned his mania or madness toward a living victim, but it was only a matter of time. And so then the rest of the movie seems to be about 3 victims. Basically, it becomes these vignettes.
Yes.
So there's 3 vignettes that'll take us to the end of the movie. The first one being, I thought, was one of the, because you think black comedy, I'm like sitting there, like, what is happening in these scenes? It's the most like crazed madness. His mom has told him that there is one woman that she trusts, right? A family friend.
Why does she trust her, Colin?
Because she's fat.
She's fat.
Like, I can trust her. She's fat woman.
When she yelled at, because she's fat.
And
it's like, oh, okay, fat people are trustworthy.
This is where I made a connection to another movie I didn't expect. When we get into her scenes with him, I'm like, I'm getting the same ick I got in Manhunter. When the sex scene in Manhunter, you're just like, oh, this lady doesn't know what she's doing. She has no idea.
Well, there's like layers of madness. Well, I think what also
layers of ick.
Triggers this is the friends next door.
They're like, we think you should be married. It's just like, is it that easy?
You're a grown man, Stop calling me sir. Go get a wife.
I'm like, he's just being polite, my friend.
Yep. So to go get a wife, he takes them up on their advice, and he calls up mom's friend and goes over to her house. and I mean, he is like not putting any kind of disguise on who he is. He's an idiot, and he's basically like, yeah, but I'm just taking care of mama. And she's like, are you saying You're taking care.
You talk to Mama talks to you? Yep. Yes, she does.
And you're like, oh, this is the moment. And she's like, well, my husband,
he's met his match.
He talks to me. And you're like, oh, these pair are made for each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question, though. Okay. So where this leads, does she actually talk to her husband, or is this an elaborate ruse to get fucked?
Elaborate ruse to get fucked.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Like, she doesn't actually believe she's talking. This is all just like, but wow, what a roundabout way to get to it, lady. She took the long, scenic, like, get there.
No, man. It's a performance.
Yeah.
There's wigs. There's just
seance performances.
She's
Wait, so what are you talking about? Explain to the good folks.
So Ezra goes to see his mother's friend. As his mother was dying, she says, the only person I trust when I die is the person you need to call is, I forgot her name.
Maureen?
Something like that. Maureen is like, she's the only one I trust because she's fat. You can trust the fat people. So talk to her when I go, and she's the only one, and we'll figure it out. And then we forget about that for a while, and then again it's brought up where the family who's with him is just like, we think you need a wife, and you need to, kind of settle down and everything like that. And so he decides to call upon her and go visit her. And she comes off as a little screwy once, we get to meet her and everything. And then once Ezra says that he does speak with Mother, she's like, I speak with my husband Herbert too. And so we're just like, oh no. And she's like, where does it go from there?
We should get them all together.
Right. We should have a four-way seance.
What are we talking about? Yeah, we're gonna summon the spirits of your mom and my husband. Right. We're all just gonna hang out. And Ezra's like, okay.
Hard cut to her in a blonde wig.
Well, I do like that he goes home and talks to Mother, like as he's tending to Mother, and he's like, I think she's a little not all there.
Sean called that.
The way she's talking, and then Ezra's expressions hearing all of this stuff, it's just like, wait a second, he thinks she's nuts. And it's a great play off of, because then he goes home and talks to his dead mother as he's eating chicken and dipping it in jars of honey with a badger on it. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And he's like, I think she's not all there, but she got a nice, cutest little belly you ever seen. Mm-hmm. And she got thighs like drumsticks. Yeah. And it's just like, ugh, to all of this. Ugh, I don't want anyone talking while they're eating chicken. I don't know why.
No, you know what? Moratorium on eating chicken on screen forever. The substance had way too much chicken eating on screen. Oh,
why
God.
is that? Why
they
is
just
like
know
fried
it's
chicken
I don't know.
the thing? Because you're pulling it.
It's carnal.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Can we substitute that with ribs? Or we don't want to ruin ribs?
No, don't ruin ribs.
Yeah, don't ruin ribs.
Leave chicken.
Chicken seems to be the one that activates that whole thing. You're just like, ugh.
So, they have a seance.
They do a very sensual seance, at least for her, where she is inhabited by the spirit of her dead husband Herbert, who is who wants a favor from Ezra. Fuck my wife, basically.
Please.
So this poor woman has been just horny for however long it's been.
She's putting on a show, though. She's possessed by her husband, speaking like him while she's unbuttoning her shirt, and like. This guy very much, the Ed Gein character, takes things like literally. So you can't speak in euphemisms with him. You have to straight up say it because he'll just like, he doesn't pick up on it. Yeah. And she has to be like, doesn't he miss it the first time? Because she says something
as to her husband, she's like, I want you to take my wife and, the carnal part of our relationship.
Yes.
He's like, the carnival?
He's the carnival? Yes. And he's very excited about that. That's what he wants.
Yes, yeah. I'll take you to the carnival,
cotton candy and
Which, oh my God, if they had smash cut to them at a carnival together and she's like, can we go home now? And he's having the best time.
This is great and all, Ezra, but I had other things on my mind.
She's basically just trying to get laid, like desperately. He wants Ezra to do the job.
Right. She keeps saying it's been so long in a way that is very uncomfortable.
Look, I understand people do a lot to get laid, but this is
elaborate.
This is elaborate.
Well, it was like she couldn't just ask him.
No.
She had to. Well, I guess she did kind of like, I need to do my husband wants you to do this favor for me, and then she becomes her husband himself to man to man, asking you, Ezra, to do this favor.
Do me a favor. Fuck her.
But unfortunately, Ezra can't go through with the deed because
he gets flashbacks of his mother at this moment.
Syphilis, gonorrhea, death. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I can't have that happen. And he happens to have brought a gun with him, and then he puts a spill over her head and
Right
couple
in front
times.
of her.
Right in
husband's
front of
photo.
a picture of Herbert.
That actress, I'm sorry, I forget her name, but she was the house mother in Black Christmas.
Yes.
She's great in this.
She's great.
Dedicated actress.
Yes.
She's doing very good.
I love her for her contributions to the horror genre.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Whatever your name is. So there's his living victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what does he do with her? I think he takes her skin, right? Is that the first one? That the one? Yeah, he peels her skin.
Yeah.
That's right, because he's brought Mother someone to talk to, her skull, right? As he's peeled off all of her skin for...
Right, he's patching up Mom, is bringing food and skulls. And you guys will have a lot to talk about as he has a skull on the bedpost.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, he had a skull on each corner of his bedpost,
Well, unfortunately, this experience has given Ezra the desire to be in the company of women. And so that takes him to
Mary?
Dusty's bar, Dusty's Saloon, or whatever the hell it was called. Yeah. The local watering hole and marry the barmaid, who's the real...
was Bernice Warden, I think was her name? Yeah.
Okay. Mary in the movie. And...
34, if truth be told, a little over the hill.
According to the narrator.
According to the narrator of this movie.
Yeah, the narrator said that no one else in this movie agreed because all the guys are cartoon wolf eyes at her in this bar. This guy... I was like, keep your editorializing out of this, sir. Especially
he really did. He's just like, this is coming from nowhere. This is your thoughts. Especially
this is a quote unquote documentary about this insane deranged serial killer, and this is what you're going to criticize. This lady's a little over.
Right. In my opinion, he's going a little too much. Yeah. Just calm down, my friend.
Well, what? How does the? I guess I don't know. That's
he
the
orders
thing
a whiskey sour.
with all serial killer movies. They often do this kind of thing where we know that the person is off balance, the main character, the serial killer, right? And there's always that scene where they meet a woman, and I think
they become infatuated.
But it's the idea that somehow it's they get into a relationship which you may say is kind of normal, and maybe they will this will be the thing that changes the trajectory of this tragedy. But no, it never does, right?
Nope.
Henry Portrait of a serial killer maniac, anything that you bring up.
There will never be the woman who changes. It's I won't kill her. That's not going to happen. Never happens.
Unless there's the one where the woman is as crazy as the,
he's met his match.
Yeah.
Right.
Natural born killers.
Yep.
So how does he pursue? Well, he's introduced to Mary at the bar. One of the other guys is the town drunk and is just he's an older guy.
A Gene Hackman lookalike. He takes his the cartoon wolf eyes literally as he's just monologuing to her. He's like, you know what I do to her? I won't repeat, but a lot of vulgar things. But
then he also says, but at my age, it's so cruel, you can't get up. It's what did he say? It's like a limp turkey neck hanging.
Limp turkey neck.
And it's keep in mind, he just turned the Gene Hackman lookalike, which I think in the credits just said drunk.
Yeah.
Turns around to Ed Gein and just says all this vulgar stuff and then turns back. That is the most accurate representation of getting trapped in public with that stranger that doesn't have any social boundaries.
Right.
That was a little too real. I was
you're just
God.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Too much information.
Just going, you nod. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You adopt the I'll say yes if it gets you out of the conversation. Yeah, exactly.
Just all right.
Yep.
Sure, pal, because you hope he doesn't turn on you.
Yeah.
Say, why aren't you on my side?
Exactly.
You're just hoping they don't get angry about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's impressive that this guy manages to be more appalling than Ed Gein. This guy is
but is that the point?
It is one scene. Maybe it is.
Is that the point? Because then it makes
the way you go about
that's
it.
What I'm saying. The way that they're structuring these, it's it seems like he's then more normal by default than this guy. You're like,
a polite killer.
Ed's a polite guy. You know, he would never do say
he's
something.
just polite and lonely.
He's going to wear your face, but he's going to be nice about it beforehand.
Yeah.
Deranged. Truly.
Yeah.
Mary gets him his first whiskey sour that he's ever had in his life. So we see him staggering drunk.
I love that.
The whiskey sour.
He drinks the one, and then we cut
the
to
smash
him
cut.
Having drink 5. He's like, Mary!
And he's the only one left in the bar. The lights are down. Yeah. it's clearly closing time, and she's got to help him out. Yep.
And he asks her for a kiss before he leaves, and being drunk, I guess she obliges him. Mistake.
Yep.
But then she shoos him out, and of course, then the narrator informs us that over the next several days and weeks, he would camp out outside that place every night.
Waiting for his opportunity.
And so he manufactures an opportunity that leads into like this big suspense sequence. So how does this happen? What does he do?
He slashes her tires while waiting for her to close down the bar, which, like, we don't talk enough about as a society. Slashing tires is such a horrible thing to do to another person.
That's a lot.
Because not only do you strand them, but tires are expensive. And then you got to get a tow truck to take you're out a lot of money.
It really is the worst thing you could do to someone.
Like stealing another man's horse.
Yeah, exactly. which used to be punishable by death. So it's like...
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the 70s when cell phones and stuff were not ubiquitous.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's
you're
a fucking pain in the ass.
Because you figure, what time is this closing? I doubt they're at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, 2 a.m. at Clus, and then 3 a.m. by the time she cleared everything up, locked all the doors
in
and
the
got
70s or
Right.
2 a.m.? I don't even know. I mean, it's late.
Oh, wait, no, it's Wisconsin. Wisconsin has weird alcohol rules.
They do have weird alcohol rules.
So maybe, who knows?
They're all about the day drinking up
They
there.
really are. We have nothing else to do.
Yep.
Let's drink.
But I did get the idea that it's late. She's
It's late.
basically screwed.
Yes.
And he shows up, is like, I could give you, I could help you, kids today, slashing tires. Yep.
She's like, okay, whatever. Can you just give me a ride? He's like, well, I think I could do. It's like, okay, thank you.
And you're like, no, don't get in the car. Then she's in the car. And of course, he doesn't go to town. He keeps driving. Where are you going? And he's like, going to my place. And she says, stop the car. He does, which I was like, oh, this is I didn't see that coming.
Right. But then he convinces her, again, playing on the fact that this is a pain in the ass to have two tires out at night and not being able to go anywhere. He's like, I was just going to get the spares I got. Why would you want to go into town? They'll charge you for everything. I'll do it for free.
Yep.
And who's going to turn that down?
Right.
So she's like, okay. And when they get to the house, she stays in the truck and he goes inside. I'm only going to be a minute. And there was a fade out.
There was. So I'm guessing like half hour later.
Yeah.
And she's like, come on, God damn it. But it is now he hasn't come back out. So she has to go into the house. And so this is always, in a horror movie, right? The door. It's like what lies on the other side of this door. And then I was like, we've seen his mom's room. Like we've been in there, but we haven't really seen what else he's been doing in the house. And so Mary, unfortunately, is going to be the one who finds this out.
Explores it for us.
Yeah.
Well,
so she creeps in.
Would you go past that kitchen?
No. I think I'm better off walking down the road and hoping to hitchhike at this point.
I think so. Especially you come in there and there's just a pile of, again, the chicken bones in the middle of the table. And just the general nastiness of this house.
It's got to smell, right?
It's got to smell.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was waiting for a reaction from the actress that she could smell, because he does get pulled over.
Yes.
After he
I'm sorry, I called you a hog, mama.
After he digs up his mom's grave, and the cop is like, what do you have in there?
He's like, it's just a hog I forgot to take out of my car. How do you forget?
Because you're around it all the time. You can't even smell it.
Right, yeah. You come nose blind. Yeah.
So she finds the killer, the lair, right? The killer's lair, where he has all of his, well, they're not victims, but all the bodies. And so he has been active. There's 6 corpses in this room.
Yeah.
And there's this one in the center that's got this long hair. And as we focus on it, you realize that that's actually Ed sitting in the middle with wearing the skin suit. It's very creepy.
Cranking on an old fashioned organ.
Something about those beeswax song players grosses me out. Something, I don't like the aesthetic of it. But I actually didn't notice him at first, so I had a tiny jump scare at that point. I was like, oh, whoa, shit, yeah. Because the way he's sitting with the kind of hair pulled over his face, yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah,
and the way they shoot it, I guess, you see, the room and back to her, the room back to her, and then and then he moves, and her reaction, which is, I mean, she's. That's what she, I think, freaks out and starts running. You mentioned the music. It's Carl Zitterer who did all the Bob Clark movies.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's the Old Rugged Cross, the hymn. just played on an organ. That's basically the score for this movie, except for during the suspense parts. I thought that was like really effective because it gives you this kind of old discordant, it just feels off.
Right. Plus it kind of goes into the religious aspect of the mom and everything, just having an organ in there and everything. Yeah.
So she flees the house as you do, and here comes Ez wearing a skin suit.
Just going after her, just oof.
And I guess there it was like, okay, you probably could have joined these scenes together in some way, but we get the idea that he knocks her out, puts her in a closet, and then brings her to the dinner table.
I'm sorry, I put you in the closet and took all your clothes off. Let me open the door and help you out.
The others are ready to meet you now. And so she gets to sit down to dinner with the other corpses, but she's able to use her savvy and get him to untie her because she can't eat, if her hands are tied.
Yeah. Even he's questioning, he's like, well, maybe if I untie you, you're going to try something.
Right.
Just like, you should expect that.
Isn't
At what point do you make a break for it in this situation?
I mean, I think she kind of handled things pretty well, to be honest. I thought she did the smart things, asking him to untie the hand thing so she can participate in the sex, and then smashing him with the bottle. It was all good. Yeah. Yeah, I
wonder how long you wait before you smash that bottle. Trying to figure out exits and shit.
If he turns his head and sees that you're fucked, but
but again, never been in that situation.
Right.
Tough to call.
Yep. We're really Monday morning quarterbacking
we
this,
really
aren't we?
Yeah. Did you hear about this? This is what I would do. Yeah.
This was a scene where also he was demonstrating all the stuff that he'd made out of people, right?
Yeah.
The femur bone drum.
Yeah.
He made the drum, which I think I'll bet he made that drum out of that cute little belly skin.
He says the belly drum.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that he showed her?
Was it the big femur?
That was second.
Yeah,
he said something before that, but I can't remember.
Was it on Mother or something like that? It's just I don't
it was the ukulele.
Oh yeah, that ain't catgut is what he says. He's from that's right.
Yeah.
Ukulele. It's a violin that he's playing badly.
Right. Oh yeah. And so and then he clubs her to death with the with the femur bone.
Yeah. And he's playing.
you see, it's gory. I mean, I guess you see it's
that orange 70s blood. Yeah.
But they didn't cut away from it. I guess this is a movie that does kind of, go graphically into some of the
right.
The
we get a freeze frame. A great just like it's a great freeze frame because his face is just maniacal at that point.
And the use of slow motion, which is also prevalent in a lot of 70s movies. It kind of always makes things even more creepy somehow.
I've tried to use that and replicate it in stuff I make today. Just that you're going fast into that slow mo where you get and that scream and then stop there and then maybe flash to white or something like that. I'm thinking Texas Chainsaw at this point. But creepy.
We need to bring it back. Slow motion.
Yeah.
And then the third vignette is so we're spending a lot of time with the neighbor, right? Ed's been spending time with the neighbor, and I think, he
admits his crimes every now and again.
I know, and the neighbor's like, Ed, you got to stop talking like that crazy shit. You're going to get,
I was just joking.
They're going to put you in a loony bin, because you're like,
because it's talking about the barmaid. She's still missing. He's like, oh, she ain't missing. I got her up there.
Yeah.
Got her, mama, and everybody.
Yeah.
Like, don't talk like that. Like, I didn't want you to be worried. You were worried about it.
He's honest to a fault, I guess.
He really is.
So, that guy's son comes home with his girlfriend,
Sally,
and she works at
Is this a thing? Was there a Sally in the Ed Gein story? Because we get Sallies all over the place when it comes to Ed
Gein. They've known it's the same year,
probably popular.
And so Ed takes a shine to Sally, the hardware store girl, and so he goes to basically stalk her. And the his neighbor and the neighbor's son show up. They're like, "Oh, what are you doing here, Ed?"
Getting some antifreeze.
Yep. And it turns out that there's a new rifle on sale or something. And there was some talk of hunting.
Yeah,
Sally's against it, and Ed is too, I guess. So they have something in common.
Yeah, animals are innocent. People,
right?
Not so much, apparently, to Ed.
So the neighbor's showing off this shotgun, and if you knew anything about guns, and
it's a rifle.
The rifle. And Ed points the rifle, and we aim down the scope at Sally at the register, And after the neighbors leave,
broad daylight in the middle of the store,
he basically this is his moment of opportunity. I guess he takes a bullet out of one of the ammunition boxes, loads it up, and shoots her in the face.
So we assume.
Yes.
Turns out he just grazed her.
Apparently so, because she's in the back of his pickup truck, but she is still alive.
Yep.
Misses her opportunity in a way that's so frustrating.
Sally's in the backs of trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, you're onto something here.
Yep.
She wakes up at the back of the truck and he doesn't know she's awake yet. And he's driving pretty slow. And Sean and I are both like, get out of the truck now.
Run, go.
Like, because she could get out and he wouldn't notice, but she waits too long and he turns around and sees.
Yeah. Although you are like, you're waking up in the back of a truck after someone just tried to shoot you.
That's
So
true.
you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, a little like, what? Who?
So it's hard to be like, where am I? What do I need to do? What's going on?
Right.
Well, she does, take off eventually.
A chase ensues.
Yes.
Yeah. The only problem is that neighbor and son are out hunting bear or deer or something.
Yep. They set a bunch of the old school bear traps.
Yep.
So what was their plan here? Just come back in like a couple days and see if anything's in the traps or what? Because like,
or maybe that day later you go around and lay them out. I'm not a hunter, so I guess I don't know
how.
But
I would guess the thing is like you go out hunting, you bring the traps with you, you search, and if you find anything, you shoot it then. But you lay the traps and then come back the next day.
Okay, because it's like, I mean, one of the traps goes off and we hear a gunshot and they have no reaction to
it's like they should.
I was like, how far away are they?
They should hear some of this,
right?
Yeah,
and if you're close enough, because they're at their truck getting ready to go back when that happens, so. Ostensibly, there are somewhat, like if they didn't hear the trap close, they probably would have at least heard the gunshot. Right?
But also, maybe
she finds their truck and is like,
right. One good loud scream should have done her a lot of good at that point. But whatever.
Well, she did. That's what that happened. She screams when she's caught in the trap. The way that the movie structures it, we see that trap a lot, and I guess my first thought was like, well, she's going in that trap, but then I was like, well.
Maybe he steps in the
He could maybe
That's what I was thinking. Like, we'll show a lot of feet moving and everything. We see a trap shut, and they're like, oh, he got it.
Yeah.
We don't get that.
No, she goes into the trap.
Pretty straightforward.
And then, tries to hide, but he's able to, he sees the chain and is able to pull her back. And then
he does shoot her in the face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Point blank range, right?
Yeah.
And then takes her back to his farm where he strings her up like a deer carcass.
Yeah, she's a deer at this point.
Which is, is always very unnerving to me whenever you see actually like
I would hope so.
Like pork or pig carcasses, how much they look like humans.
Yeah.
It's that skin color.
But yeah, he strings her up and then, she's dead. So
beware of that, because when you can't differentiate between them, that's when it becomes a problem, Colin. So just.
You ever seen a movie? No, never mind. That'd be a giveaway.
Okay.
That's a plot point.
Gotcha.
All right, yeah.
I was going to say, you go to the casino, you'll see some meat hanging in the windows of that steakhouse. That's not
really?
It's right up front, too. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
and like he starts cutting her like a deer, and then get more.
And this is where all the laughs stop. No more laughs for the rest of the movie.
Well, they kind of stopped before.
But this is like
there's very dark.
Yeah, we got real dark when we were all just like,
yeah. Sean and I had visceral reactions to like the last shot of this movie, which
it's just.
Are we there yet?
Yeah, the whole like we said, the laugh stopped before, but when it got to like her and the just like treating her like a deer and everything, it's just like
it's the dehumanizing. That it makes it so awful. Yeah,
and just like he is covered in blood and his hands and everything, and just like.
Well, I guess that's so. If we take his part in this to its conclusion, so what happened there? Like as he's gutting her, he begins to hear flashbacks from Mother. Wages of sin or death. Then what did the Bible or what did God do? He burned them all. And so is that Ezra having some kind of reprimand from Mom? Like, or in the other ones, it always seemed like, he would kill the women because they were, diseased, or what Mom had said they're all diseased.
Right.
But in this one, it was like Mom was rebuking him for killing her. Like he had committed the sin by killing her, right? Or something. I don't know. I was trying to figure out like what is happening because he stops.
Because it does feel like he has, like he's hit something that is different than all the other ones.
Yeah.
Is it because she is quote unquote more innocent than the rest of them? Like, or because I don't know. But it does feel like something happens.
Or I don't know if it's the filmmakers trying to solve something in editing.
That, or maybe we've reached the end of the movie and we need to make this a thing that happens, whether it makes sense to the story or not.
It felt a bit anticlimactic that it was just like he got to this part and then just kind of like stopped and went in the house, and then the movie keeps going and has because I was like, what is he going to burn the farm down? Is he going to go kill himself? Out of guilt, and then we see,
why does he snap now? Yeah, basically.
And I guess I don't know what the answer to that is in the movie,
and I don't know that should necessarily be clear. We are dealing with Ed Gein necessarily. Like what's going to make Ed Gein snap? Right, tough to call.
And so,
but everyone ends up going back to the hunters, the dad and the son end up going back to the hardware store, or the store, and they see what we've seen, the leftovers, the blood trail, the glasses, and everything, and so they're just like, "What's going on?
Something's happened to Sally." And who was the last person in here? It was Ez, but he couldn't do anything.
I've known that man for 25 years. He wouldn't do a thing.
But the son's like, "Hey, he's crazy or shit," and probably did it.
The father's realizing what everyone else thinks about Ez, and just like, he's nuts.
Yeah,
like he's maybe harmless to a point, but he's nuts.
And I believe the sheriff is with them, right? So it's the sheriff and the two guys, and so they hightail it out to Ed's house.
Yep.
And this is that shot. I think
is the drive up.
So, okay, so we're saying that this is a good like tableau for a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it is disturbing but extremely simple. Why does it bother us so much?
For me, it's like the panic they come in with, the way they slam on their brakes and their car
slide
skids
for 20 feet.
Slide for 20 feet because it's winter in Wisconsin. But there's starkness of like, there's only like 3 colors in this whole scene. It's like gray, black, and like flesh colored. And that's kind of it. And you just see like the barn, and then in the corner of the barn, you see the door open with the body hanging in it. And it's just one of those things that like your human brain is not prepared to comprehend something like that. You know?
Especially in probably in this era, I'm sure plenty of these people have driven up on a farm, looked in a door, and seen a deer hanging there. And just to try and think of what their realization is to drive up to a familiar scene, and their brain's trying to figure out that is different, and there's something else going on right there, and that realization of what they're seeing. Like, that moment could drive someone nuts.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why when you listen to any true crime story, the person who discovered the body always says, I thought it was a deer. I thought it was a mannequin. Their first thought is never it's a dead body, because that's like your brain trying to protect you. Your brain's trying to process it the way it knows how. And the only rationale it can connect is a deer, which would be commonplace, or a mannequin. So, yeah. So, yeah, the realization, like you said, that's a deep level of trauma that you might not be able to undo, Yeah,
that's an image you never forget.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, like images like that where the camera is at a distance, because I even think of like, I don't know, one of the like Schindler's List, right? There's that scene where Ray Fiennes was just like going down and just shooting people in the head. It always kind of bothered me. And it was because there was no, like, movie language tells you there's a close up to the guy getting shot in the head, but it was so remote and distant, and I'm like, this has that same feel to it. It's like it feels somehow more real because there's no like cut in close up. It's like, no, you would be seeing this from a distant perspective and realizing like this is the horror that's going on.
Yeah, they want the audience to feel the same thing that those characters would feel coming up to that. Just a slow push in on that.
And then I guess then they do go into the house.
This is the slow-mo.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. The slow-mo as they run toward the house and open the door, and inside they find Ed, lost to madness at this point, and laughing, covered in blood, at the table surrounded by the corpses.
I would have been okay if they ended in that barn shot. I think that would have been really powerful. Just like,
yeah. And maybe like you hear audio of entering a house and you're like, oh, Ez, something like that. And
yeah. Was there when did the was there a coda from the reporter? I don't remember if there was. I know the movie starts with like the story you're about to see is all true, but all the names have been changed.
Right.
you know.
No, I think we get a laughing, a freeze frame, and then.
And Ed Gein was alive at the time that this movie was made. You said he died in what year?
1977 in Madison.
Yep.
In a mental hospital in Madison, so not far from us.
So he was probably never saw it.
Yeah,
the movie. Of
I
his
hope
life
not.
story.
No, he probably wrote letters and was like, "I hear they made a movie about me."
Yeah.
We were theorizing, like, do you think they gathered around the folks for movie night at the mental hospital and put on Deranged for everybody? Like, guys, Ed's movie is out. Ed's movie is out. Let's
Right,
watch
everyone's
it.
just
Yeah,
like-
yeah, exactly. That would be so fucked up.
That would be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've listened to us talk about the movie, but the question, of course, is would we recommend it to you? Should you watch it? But to find that out, you're going to have to stick with us as we answer some of your mail. And to do that, we're going to have to summon our mailman. His name's Igor. Bring us the mail.
Masters, the mail. I've got the mail. So many letters. Our followers are rising.
Why, thank you, Igor.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Igor, I got nothing for you on this
No,
one, man.
I just
This
hope you're
movie-
not getting into trouble,
Yeah.
Igor, because this seems like something that we discover about you.
Well, he did want to remind the listeners, though, that it's almost that magical time of year.
This is true. He's the one who keeps track of it.
It is nearing listener request month, which means you get to pick what we watch for the entire month of January,
You get to punish us.
or reward us,
Or
depending
reward
on
us.
How you
You've
feel
been-
about our performance.
Right.
this
You've
year.
been nice the past couple of years, I'd say.
Think of it as a performance review for us. If you feel like we're not at where we should be, give us the material to get there.
You're not doing
know?
good enough.
Yeah.
Here's these movies.
So starting today, you can go over and start suggesting movies on our Facebook, right? where we want
Yeah,
the
we'll put it
suggestions.
on several social
Okay,
media.
yes.
Yeah.
Go to our social media. You'll find out where you can suggest movies. Please keep it limited to three picks maximum,
Three.
because it gets really hard for Igor.
Yes.
This is all paperwork Igor has to do. So please,
Right. And if you
it's
can
the end of the
imagine,
year. We're all
he's
mentally
not
checked
great
out.
at paperwork.
Yes. Yeah. So we look forward to hopefully seeing what you pick in the month of January. But this is your chance. If there's always been something that you're like, oh, you should have done that. Also, look at our back catalog. Make sure we haven't already done it because we have done over 600 episodes now. So
Yeah,
we
we've
have
covered
some blind spots, but
Yeah. But
Yeah.
make your suggestions
Yes.
now.
All right.
Nothing like witchery, please.
oh, wow,
was
I
last-
forgot about that.
last
yeah.
year, wasn't
oh,
it?
Boy.
I mean, it did have the Hoff in it, right?
Yeah,
it did.
So
It
there
did
was
have the
some
Hoff in it.
Maybe it would have been. We also were like COVID apart at that
Oh,
point because somebody was sick at that point, so
Yeah.
that made it a little more.
That was a rough
interesting.
stretch. Yeah, our
Yeah.
last year, our end of the year was
We'll
a
try to be
COVID
all
special.
together for
Yeah,
this
it
one.
was.
Well, we should also remind the good folks at home how they can participate in the mailbag by following along on the aforementioned Facebook
Facebook.com/Saturday Night Freak Show.
or X,
At Sat Freak Show.
by email,
Saturday Night Freak Show at yahoo.com.
or on Instagram and Threads at Saturday Night Freak Show. About tonight's movie, Deranged. Michael Whitaker writes in and says, just in time for the holidays, that old Christmas tradition of watching an unofficial biopic of a serial killer.
It really is.
Okay, well, it was at my house. My mom was really mad at my dad every year.
There you go.
Lucas Accardo says, Deranged is the best unofficial Ed Gein biopic ever. I love the campy tone and the bizarre intervention of the journalist in the movie. It gives it a very exploitative and pulpy taste. It's delicious. It boggles the mind to think how much cinematic creativity was inspired by the abominable activities of that notorious lunatic.
Yep.
Christie was the movie that we watched last
yeah.
week.
Oof.
Steve Carney writes in and says, I watched Christie a few years ago and was super impressed how great it was for a film I'd never seen or heard of before. It blew me away. I ordered the German Blu-ray after I got a region-free player. I wish a boutique label would release it here in the States. Damn it.
There you
You
go.
might not like our episode then. So.
I liked it.
You
I
did
recommended
like
it,
it.
Steve. I was on your...
Nobody
Yeah.
else did.
The week before, we watched a movie called Blood Freak, and El Topo Loco
Oh,
said,
Love it.
yes, the Chaos Gods have another Warhammer 40,000 universe film. The only question is whether the Blood Freak is Slaanesh because of debauchery and drug torture, or Zenich because turkey-headed. Warhammer 4,000.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Henry Cavill about that.
Yep.
He's a big Warhammer
Yep.
40,000 fan. So.
And we,
And I know nothing.
haven't put him on the Wall of Fame yet, but I'm sure we know his number.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll send him an email.
Igor's got his personal contact.
Igor might know
and him
him.
are really
Igor
close.
might know him, yeah. He
They
was
play
a-
Warhammer together.
There you go.
Yeah. They've never met in person, but
yeah, they're internet friends. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, each of you, for writing in. We really appreciate it. And now we're going around the table and telling you what we thought of Deranged, starting with
Sean. I'll go first tonight. Deranged, truly a perfect title for this movie. It really does feel like the Ed Gein biopic. Like, this feels almost documentary-ish, just based on, what I know about the story and everything. I think played to perfection by Robert Blossom. He has a way of transitioning in his acting and his facial expressions from someone you sympathize with to someone you're just like, holy shit, he's very crazy. Like, he does very good in this role. I was disturbed by this movie. It is, thank you, Tom Savini, just by the effects of it, but also how all the other characters play off of it, especially Roberts Blossom in his very nonchalant way of dealing with like the craziness that's going on around him, especially when he's just like, that one lady, she might not be all there. Like, just how he's playing it, I think is really great. I think I don't think it's a movie for the faint of heart. Wow, 1974. I recommend this movie. It is deranged. You will get exactly what you're thinking going into this. A story about Ed Gein called Deranged, and you'll get it. But it is effective. It is, again, like we said, funny until it is very much not. But then it is very, affecting. I recommend it. It's something to see. I was like, is it a good movie? Hard to label something like this as good, but it's very interesting, and I liked it. Very effective. They did a good job, and it is really amazing that Ed Gein story. What did he say? Something reverberations, prolific reverberations. I think the anchor said at the very beginning. Something like that. I'm just like, that perfectly describes the Ed Gein story. Based on its reverberations through horror cinema. Like, it's just like, he nailed it. So, I think it's, if you're a horror fan, you definitely got to watch it. Michaela, what'd you think?
On that tip, I saw Gladiator 2 this week, and they keep saying in that movie, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
There you go.
Well, what Ed Gein did in life is still echoing in eternity, through cinema and pop culture indefinitely. Like, I feel like you could do a red string board of every pop culture moment that goes back to Ed Gein, and it would be as big as the deep dark basement.
And it all leads to Charlie Hunnam.
And somehow it all it leads to which, we're living in a time of Ryan Murphy doing these just like repugnant kind of exploitative, gross takes on very real things. It's nice to see something. I don't want to say this movie's respectful, because I don't know that it really is, but it's not as tasteless as his content, if that makes sense. Like, this is like the serial killer biopic, I feel like, because I think it does a really good job at being gross and repellent, but also like that. I think that dark comedy is necessary to get you keep watching, because otherwise it would just be relentless. Also, it's runtime. It knows an hour and 20 is what we're at, like 80 minutes. So it doesn't need to be any longer. That's perfect. And I love that it doesn't have to be an entire origin story of his whole life leading up to this moment. It's the moment his psyche broke. And
I don't need to see him as a kid.
Exactly.
Something that happened to him.
And I don't need all the, exactly. Just give me the span of the crimes, and this movie does it really well. Like you said, Roberts Blossom is great. And it's Tom Savini is always a plus, and always a welcome presence, always elevates a movie whenever he shows up. It's not something I think I could recommend to everyone. This is like, you'll know just by knowing what it's about if it's for you or not. You know what I'm saying? And one of my friends was really excited that we're doing this, and he said, I don't even know if I like that movie, but I'm glad you're doing it. And I get what he means now after saying it. Like, it would be a weird movie to say you like, but I do kind of like it. So I enjoyed it. I was never bored. There's I like that it is treated like everyone in the movie's committed in doing it seriously. No one is like, thinks this is ridiculous or thinks it's a bit or thinks it's over the top like a Ryan Murphy thing. It is a serious movie, and it's well made with people that are committed and doing their job. And I like the way it's handled. And I think that it's a concept that will never lose interest, but are we going to do it better than this? Probably not, So let's stop trying with the Charlie Hunnam type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I think
I don't
like
need
you said,
sexy Ed Gein.
No, and I don't, and you know that there's probably going to be some sort of like flashback to justify why he's the way he is. Don't need that either.
No, don't explain it.
Nope. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I'm kind of surprised it took this long to come to the Freak Show because this is like grade A Freak Show prime beef, you know. So I stamp of approval. I enjoyed it, Colin.
Oh, it's been circling every winter. It actually, I'm like, maybe Deranged. Yeah, I had, as a rabid horror fan, I had never heard of the movie until I picked up this. I needed a copy of Motel Hell, and this was the first way that I think you could get it. It was as a bonus, and so I'm like, okay, I'll sit. Pretty Sally Mae died a very unnatural death, but the worst hasn't happened to her yet. Is the tagline on the poster.
Yeah. There's fun facts on the back, by the way.
Oh, what do we get?
Read the fun fact for this one.
Because I forgot to mention Tom Carr, the guy who raised the budget, was a promoter for Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, The Temptations 3, and Rod Stewart. Apparently, he had told them that, like, I want to make a movie, and here's what it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Funded by Rock.
Funded by, by Rock. So I guess, so I put it in and kind of blind watched it, and then I was really struck by it. I guess that's the thing, you have these hit or miss movies that you haven't really heard of, and you watch it, and I don't even know if Bob Clark's name was in the opening credits as a producer, even though, because I'm looking here and it doesn't say anything about it, but then later when you put that into his filmography, it's like, oh man, like he was a significant, component of like that 70s exploitation era horror and made some of the great ones. You should see Dead of Night, Death Dream if you haven't seen it. Children shouldn't play with dead things. I didn't really strike a chord with me. And Black Christmas is an all-time classic. This one, I think, fits in with those. I was just, I think, like Michaela was saying, it feels like the definitive serial killer biopic. And I think it's because of that journalistic, by having the journalist in there, then it gives us it kind of like the faux documentary vibe.
That faux realism.
It feels more realistic. And the production design is like on point. And, we say that. And so you go into it going like, well, what did they do? It's right. It feels like they just found these places and shot in them and they look exactly like it. There's, families sitting around the dinner table. We don't shoot stuff like that anymore, but it does feel like you're just kind of an onlooker on these, it feels like a real family sitting around having dinner, So I guess it gives you that kind of realism that draws you into it. And then there's that black comedy, which again, I had forgotten about. And tonight I'm like, oh my God, this movie's hilarious, in a gross kind of way. Right. But it succeeds. I think when I say, that I loved it, it was like, it's a horror movie. I mean, it's like an honest to God, like, oh my God, this one is disturbing. And Robert's Blossom. I mean, you can't say enough about that performance. A lot of lip acting in this.
Yeah, a lot of lower lip action, but he's doing great.
But I mean, I heard that Christopher Walken auditioned. I heard Harvey Keitel auditioned.
Oh my God.
But they, I guess, were too young for the. So Robert's Blossom won out, for being about the right age and physicality of what they were looking for, and just had a take on it. And this guy, he just has a presence in these little bit parts that he's played in other movies. But this one, to me, is like, you love him in Home Alone or Christine, or but it's Deranged.
You loved him in Home Alone. You saw him in Christine. Now Deranged.
Deranged is, I think, like the of the stuff that I've seen. That's like the pinnacle of his career.
Yep.
And you should check that out. He's deranged and he's disturbing, and I would recommend the movie 100%.
There you go.
So that means with all of us recommending it, that means that you're contractually obligated to watch it by listening to this show. Congratulations.
I don't know how Hollywood feel about this.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Would it be just such a turnoff?
It might be.
It might be.
Yeah. Okay, so next week we're going to watch a movie that's chosen by
Sean. What are we watching next week? And where are we watching?
All right. Sci-fi horror.
Okay.
Hong Kong.
Okay.
1992. From the director of Riccio, The Story of Ricky.
Wait.
We'll be watching The Cat.
Oh, God. How many cats are going to die in this movie?
Oh, no, Michaela. That is not going to happen.
The cat does the killing?
Strap in, folks.
Okay.
It's going to be wild.
All right. It's just the irony of you choosing a movie called The Cat is not lost on me.
It's going to be wild.
Okay, all right. So that's next week on the Saturday Night Freak Show. They have to track that one down, I'm guessing.
Yep.
The Cat.
Daily Motion if you can find it.
All right. And so we hope you'll join us. And until then, ladies and germs, the basement is going dark.